Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys are having a great night out there and have had a great week so far. I got you an update on what is going on with the tropics. We're going to drop the latest and greatest information from over the last 24 hours. If you've been following along, I've made evening videos the last several days talking about the tropics, and that's going to be the continued theme probably over the next several weeks as we continue to inch closer to peak hurricane season. So that's what we're going to continue to do, just to keep you guys aware of what's going on. If there's not a lot to talk about, well, we won't talk about a lot. If there is, we'll talk about a lot. So that's what we'll do in this video. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I know I don't have the most greatest setup in the world for any new viewers, but we got a tight-knit family here. We all love to interact with one another and just try to keep it real with you guys. And that's my different factor that I bring, maybe compared to what other people do regarding weather on YouTube. So definitely, like I said, subscribe if you haven't. Hit me up on social media. It's a great way to interact with what I do, Twitter, Facebook, especially when things get active. Man, it gets kind of fun out there, you know, and at the same time, you're getting the latest and greatest information. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over, and it gives everybody else in the comments an opportunity also. So we all do that for one another here. So let's get rolling this evening and talk about a few things. There's a couple topics. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about this system right here first, and then we're going to talk about maybe a couple tropical waves that can get going, or at least try to get going out there in the tropical Atlantic, and then we're going to talk about the potential for something that can try to get going in the Caribbean, or just might not, but we're going to give you the latest information. So right now there's a 30% chance of development within the next 48 hours, within the next 5 days. Same difference here. So we'll watch this, and I can tell you, this doesn't look too bad right now. You can see exactly where it is, and here on the satellite this evening, almost the entire blob of convection showers and storms is completely over the Yucatan Peninsula, so you're obviously not going to see any big-time strengthening due to Atlantic interaction. But this has been dubbed an invest. This is 99L. It's predicted over the next 24 hours to drift into the Bay of Campeche. Well, it will have a chance to develop, and you can actually see a great circulation. There's a little bit of a circulation down here. It's very broad and here, but there's a little bit of a low-level circulation down there, and there's a nice anticyclonic flow aloft, well above these showers and storms, that's helping to ventilate whatever's going on here, and that'll be the case. Still going to deal with a little bit of dry air and some things that are going to help limit any kind of significant development, including just flat-out land interaction. But if you look at these high-top cirrus clouds right here and how they're moving out like this kind of, and you just kind of got a flow like this, well, these tropical systems actually circulate like this. So you're wondering, how are these cloud tops doing this? Well, like I said, we've talked about this in the last several videos. You get a flow aloft that actually moves in the opposite directions, well above these actual systems, and it helps ventilate these storms. It pushes air away, allows air to rise, and then causes more vigorous convection. So you got that over the system right now, but of course it's over land, so it's not doing a whole lot. So what can this do maybe over the next 48, 72 hours? Well, I think it'll try to re-get over the Bay of Campeche, the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, which are pushing the mid to upper 80s, even close to 90 degrees in certain areas. And then you see these colors right here. You got the wind barbs that are coming in like this, and they're circulating around this area of higher color content, if you will. To what this symbolizes is a vortice spin right here. So you got a little bit of a vort max as we're getting into around tomorrow afternoon. This tries to get going tomorrow evening before it starts to really and truly interact with land. And there's a chance that this could look pretty decent around this time tomorrow. We'll have to see. Does it have a chance to be a tropical storm? I would say there's a pretty low chance of that. Maybe 2, 3, 4 days ago there was a little bit higher of a chance, but this has actually remained pretty consistent on models. But if it can continue to inch north instead of plow right into Mexico, like go a little bit further north instead of going like this, then I think it might have a chance. But there will be a big spin right here. You'll see it on satellite tomorrow, and then the first half of the weekend, this coming weekend. So it'll be interesting to watch. Could this deliver a little bit more rain to Texas? Yeah. And by the way, Texas, I'm not going to say it's going to completely take you guys out of a drought, but it's going to put a gigantic dent on y'all's drought. And I'm not really talking about from a tropical system. you're just going to get a favorable pattern where you're just going to see daily showers and storms across basically the worst drought-stricken areas of Texas. So that's great news. And here we go. You can take a look at what is going on right here. A little bit of an anticyclonic flow aloft. And then you compare it with this, you see it here. So the models are indicating that right over this system. So this will continue for the system and provide a favorable environmental atmosphere, but that doesn't mean a whole lot if it's interacting with land. So we'll look at the entire basin, the entire Atlantic basin as a whole. What is going on? Well, we've just talked about this. You got a lot of bright colors your eyes probably go to closer to home. That's a stalled frontal boundary, pumping up a lot of showers and storms to the deep south. And then you look down out here where typically you would see a lot more activity, but the Atlantic basin is shut down. You got a waves, some wave energy starting to enter off the coast of North Africa, but in general, it is shut down out here. The Caribbean is shut down. I mean, we've seen some gigantic storms around this time of the year in years past, but it is just very quiet. There's nothing going on. So we'll look at the latest GFS. What does it show us? So let's keep this. What we're going to do, we're going to take a look at the GFS, then the European on the entire Atlantic basin, and then we're going to get a little bit closer in on this Caribbean thing we're watching, and then take a look at some ensembles. So moving forward here, we're getting into this weekend. This is when we start to watch this wave later this weekend. It looks like just a plume of moisture. It gets ate alive by dry air and all levels of the atmosphere, but especially the mid-levels. There's not really anything to focus in on this right now, but you continue to move this forward. Another wave, as we get into late next week, enters off the coast of North Africa. The ensembles like this a little bit better, and here it is, skirting across the middle of the main development region, but this is about 10 days out. And it can't tell if it wants to latch on to this wave or whatever, but it's so far out, it's hard to take very serious. But the latest GFS likes the idea of latching on to this wave. And, you know, by the time you get to around the first day of September, which is a very unreliable time frame, by the way, you have a full-fledged hurricane closing in on the Caribbean and the Antilles, the Lesser and Greater Antilles. But this is just one crazy run. But in general, I will tell you there's 3 areas of interest, and we'll back this up here too. There's an area right here we got to watch too. This was the energy that was showing that crazy major hurricane scenario 24 to 36 hours ago. It's not doing that now. All it does is shows a plume of moisture into the Gulf of Mexico about 9 to 10 days out from right now. And I think we need to watch that. And I'll talk to you guys about why here in a second. But there's 2 tropical waves in the tropical Atlantic that we need to watch. One's the first one that I think is going to get eaten alive by dry air. But I also think it might create a better atmosphere behind it by creating a moist plume for anything that involves behind it, which I think will be this. Now you look at the European remains consistently dead and quiet. Shows this wave popping off the coast of North Africa. It looks pretty decent at first, but then it gets eaten up by dry air. And then another one tries to come behind it, and here it is, coming up behind it. And the models, the European likes the idea of this a little bit better, but of course this only goes 240 hours out. The GFS goes, 384 hours out, which I think is pointless because it's so unreliable that far out. But here it is, 240 hours out, shows that wave that the GFS is showing. This is that second wave, somewhere in here, give or take a couple hundred miles, several hundred miles. But you back it up, you try to look for that Gulf energy, and you don't see nothing. The European just is saying, dude, the European is basically saying, man, just don't even pay attention to that because it's not going to happen. The GFS still shows energy there, but not a whole lot. So let's talk about that, because I think the second wave, which I think will be the player, not the first wave in the main development region, really the second wave, if either one of them. Let's talk about if something like the GFS can happen here. So these are sea surface temperatures in Celsius. So 30 degrees Celsius is around 86 degrees Fahrenheit. 31, getting into 88. So in general, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean is in the 80s. Certain areas are in the upper 80s, and there's probably a couple buoys out there in the Gulf of Mexico that's probably pushing 90 degrees. It's pretty much kind of typical these days for this time of the year. So it's like bath water out here, right? So you don't have to worry about that as far as these systems are concerned. So We'll start this off around this time next week. Here's a piece of energy, and to the normal viewer, you're not seeing much of anything here. I understand that. There was a time probably 2 years ago when I didn't understand what any of this meant. I've learned over time, and this is a great thing to look at when you're trying to figure out if there's an actual spin in the atmosphere. So you see a couple little areas right here and right here. And these will try, and this is the latest GFS. Here's one little spin right here. It's not even much of a spin, if any at all. Gets in the Gulf of Mexico, and to me, I would think that this would show a much more aggressive scenario than what it's showing. It gets in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and it doesn't really develop at all. I mean, it just doesn't. Now, this is very far out, but I think if anything gets in the Gulf of Mexico, it has a chance to develop. Now, ridging, we don't even really worry about. One thing you hardly ever worry about this far out, especially, is the directional flow. We're not going to figure that out until we get much closer. The European is also quiet, but it shows a little bit of a spin. It likes the idea of something maybe getting going in the Caribbean, but the signal there, it looks like just a weak wave aloft. It doesn't really do anything. The Euro is much more less amplified than the GFS, which really right now isn't amplified either. But I want to show you if a GFS scenario plays out. Here it is. Here's this big, robust area of moisture that gets into the Caribbean and starts to move into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, it never really truly develops anything. It really doesn't. But if you look at this area of moisture right here that really just saturates the entire Western Caribbean, gets into the Gulf of Mexico, and really just saturates moisture-wise the entire Gulf of Mexico. So I think there would be a moist environment here. Will there be a little dry air around? Absolutely. That has been a huge problem Atlantic Basin wide. Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic has continued to be a big issue with these tropical systems. But I think this is an area you watch. I really do. The last couple days of August into the first couple days of September. And I don't see a lot of shear either. You get whatever energy tries to get going right into here. You don't see hardly any shear in the Gulf of Mexico. If anything, an anticyclonic flow, which helps ventilate these systems and strengthening. You just don't. So I think if you get any vortice in late August in the Gulf of Mexico this time of the year, it's going to have a chance. I mean, absolutely going to have a chance. So we'll watch that. We need to watch for that, even though the models have totally dropped it all the way. Watch the Gulf of Mexico about 10 days from now. So we look at the ensembles. This is the European ensembles. There's a couple members. Remember, the European is out of 50 runs. So you got this signal, you got this signal, you got, what's going to happen here within the next 72 hours with the Bay of Campeche, and then you got this Caribbean signal right here. The Caribbean signal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, around, well, you probably can count these two. I would say 10 to 12 out of 50 runs show something getting going here in the Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's pretty weak, right? 12 out of 50 isn't a great percentage. It isn't at all. It's what I'm not going to try to do basic math on the fly, guys. That don't work for me. But anyways, it's a low percentage. But this first wave has continued to drop off support. I mean, I wouldn't even call it a signal anymore. You just got L's everywhere. So very, very low signal now with the first wave. But the second wave, guys, listen, I mean, I would say there's over half of these members that now show something going. This is the same wave that just popped off a pretty significant hurricane on the GFS. So you look at the GEFS ensembles, and we can only look at 12Z. We can't see what 18Z looks like because, I mean, it hasn't really came out yet. Let's see how far it is. Yeah, it's only 114 hours out, so we can look at that, but I mean it's just not gonna get us far. Here we go, update plot. Yeah, it's just not really picking up on anything. So we'll go back to 12Z. We'll go 240 hours out. Click update plot here, and here it is. It doesn't do anything with the first wave. 2 out of just several members. It does show a little bit more of some signals here in the Caribbean maybe than what the European shows, including one really strong signal. There's a pretty stout signal right into here with what's going to happen here in the next 72 hours. And then you look way out here. This is that second wave. A lot of members. So I think we watched the second wave, guys. I really do. And I think we watched the Gulf of Mexico. But as far as the first wave, I mean, I just don't think nothing's going to happen with that. I think that's actually going to be a sacrifice feeder, if you will, that just creates a big plume of moisture ahead of this second wave that might become more of a storyline the last day or two of August into the first week of September. And I think this will help create a more moist environment for the second wave. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. And I'll continue to pump out these updates regardless of what the models show. Y'all have a great night.